How's it going, everyone? Hope you guys had a good Christmas. I'm Jack from the Klutzy Outdoorsman, and in today's video I'm going to be kicking off a new series. It's called the How to Buy a Bow series. So maybe you're looking to upgrade, maybe you're new to the whole archery thing and want to get into hunting or competition. So stick tight. I'm going to kick off today's video by talking about how to figure out what bow you should narrow in on before you try them out. Okay, so like I said, we are going to get started by talking about how to narrow down what bows you should be looking for. Now, there's a plethora of different options out there. There are so many different companies out there with their own individual cam systems, their own technology, short axle to axle, long axle to axle, different length brace heights. It can be a little overwhelming, especially if you're getting into it or if you're looking to upgrade. Okay, so first off, we need to figure out what is the philosophy of use for this bow. Is it competition? Is it hunting? Or does it have to kind of be a mixture of the two, or crossover bow, if you will? So we need to identify, are you shooting targets, or are you shooting animals? I don't have the expertise personally to talk about competition bows, but we will be talking about hunting bows, okay? So the first thing we need to do when we're talking about philosophy of use for a hunting bow is we first need to figure out what you're hunting. Because different kinds of animals can require a little bit of a different bow. Not to say that you can use one bow that's really good for, say, long distance and for short distance, but you can be a little more optimized. So let's say, for instance, you are hunting whitetail deer. You live in Wisconsin, somewhere in the upper Midwest, maybe Pennsylvania, wherever. So when you're hunting whitetail deer, you're oftentimes in an elevated position or in a ground line situation. And in those scenarios, they can be confined spaces, and having something of like a shorter axle to axle bow, or having your gear scaled down to where they can fit in those confined spaces is a luxury. Now, when we're talking about hunting other animals, say out west, let's just say high country mule deer with a bow, oftentimes you'll be taking shots that are beyond your comfort zone or just on the edge of that comfort zone. If you're a whitetail guy, your average shot's in from 15 to 25 yards. But if you decide to go mule deer hunting, your average mule deer shot, especially in high country, is anywhere from 40 to 60 yards. So having a different platform that might be a little bit better optimized for longer distance, if you do hunt more western big game, could be a bit more optimal for you. And I'll get into more detail about that in a little bit. But we need to identify what you're hunting, because that can play a big key importance on kind of what specs, what features to go for in a bow. So another thing is kind of harkening back to what's your philosophy of use. Is this just a hunting bow, or is it a crossover bow? And what I mean by a crossover bow, are you not only hunting with it, but are you also shooting targets with it? And crossover bows are getting more and more popular. And I think a lot of guys are looking for a bow that they can take to the woods, but also take to the 3D course and be competitive with. And you need to take that into consideration, because target bows and hunting bows are a little bit of a different animal altogether. The next thing we need to consider is, how are you built? Let's take me for instance. I'm 5'6", I have a 26-inch draw length, I don't have very big arms. So when we're talking about, for me, again, shorter individual, not as big of a draw length. Whereas you could be a very tall individual with a very big wingspan. So you might have the opposite problem that I have, in that sometimes bows that might be ideal for some situations don't come in your draw length. Whereas for you, some shorter axle to axle bows could be, they don't come in your draw length. Let's say you're a big guy, 32-inch draw length, short 28-inch bow, most of those don't even come in draw lengths above 30 inches. So you're going to have to take that into consideration. Another thing is if you have an injury, let's say you damage your shoulder and you can't pull back a very aggressive bow that has a very aggressive draw cycle, you need something either smoother or you're going to have to get something in a lower poundage, something to take into consideration. Another thing is if you are a teenager or even a woman. Typically speaking, women start at a later day or a later date than men do when they are getting into archery. And typically speaking, women need to start at a lower poundage and work their way up from there, just like a teenager will. So you might have to start off, if you're a woman, starting off at like 25 to say 30 pounds, and then go up from there. So some bows are highly adjustable, so something else to take into consideration. So before I go into kind of talking about specs, the most important thing is, after you're done watching this video, narrow it down to 2 to 3 bows. Like I said, there are a lot of different choices out there, and sometimes buying a bow can be a lot like buying a mattress. What I mean by that is, if you are looking for a new mattress to sleep on, if you go to all these different stores and you're laying on all these different beds, oftentimes what will happen is that each of those mattresses will kind of blend into one, and they start to feel like the same thing. So it's really important to narrow it down and just try out bows that you're like, I want bunker axle to axle, longer brace height, whatever, and I want to try out these 2 bows. That way you can directly compare against those 2. Now, that's not to say you can come back at a later day, try out something else that you didn't try beforehand. But try and narrow it down so that you can really get down to how this bow feels in your hand. Alright, so now that we got that can of worms out of the way, let's actually start talking about different specs that you should be looking into when trying to narrow it down to 2 or 3 bows. Now let's use me for example. Alright, so I recently made a video where I tried out 3 of the different 2020 model bows. You can go back and watch that video. I have a link in the description for that. Now, those 3 bows were the Matthews VXR 28, the Hoyt Carbon RX4, and the Bowtech Revolt X. So let's kind of talk about those bows and why I selected those 3 to test out. So for me, and my philosophy of use, I am, like I said, a shorter individual, 26 to 27 inch draw length depending on the bow. So fairly short draw length, shorter individual. And my main philosophy of use is hunting. Okay, I live in west central Minnesota. I'm hunting whitetail deer, typically speaking from an elevated position, sometimes from the ground. But I have aspirations to go hunting in a western theater. So maybe in the future I could potentially be taking longer distance shot at different animals, say mule deer, pronghorn, animals of that nature. Okay. So when I had the bows set up, I had them set at 26 inch draw length, 70 pounds, and I just tested out the bows. Okay. So the VXR 28 inches axle to axle length, so nice short compact bow for the tree stand, 6 inch brace height, 344 feet per second IBO. Okay, now most of the bows I'm testing out are about those specs. Now the reason why is because shorter axle to axle bows, typically speaking, are going to be better for tree stand, ground blind hunting for a jumping animal. Now, the jumpiness aspect to it of the animal being a bit more skittish, having a quieter bow really makes a difference on that. So 28 inch VXR, really nice, very quiet bow. The Hoyt, that one comes in at 29.5 inches axle to axle. I think it's like a 6 1/8 inch brace height, and then 340-ish feet per second. Again, roughly those same sort of specs. Now, the Revolt X, on the other hand, kind of deviates away from the shorter axle to axle bow length. And the reason why is because Bowtech's shorter bow for the year comes with, I think, a 7 and an 8 inch brace height. That's a longer brace height than you typically find on today's bows, and that one's IBO speed rating is 335, which, if you look back to bows of the past, most of the time those IBO speed ratings were in the 310, 320, so today's bows are a bit faster, but that 335 is on the lower end of it. Revolt X on the other hand, that one's a 33-inch axle to axle length. So a bit longer of an axle to axle length. 6.5-inch brace height, 340 feet per second. So again, those last two are really kind of staying in the specs that I like. Having a, I'm going to say medium-ish brace height, a little bit of a faster bow at 340 feet per second. Now the nice thing about that Bowtech, the thing that I took into consideration is since it's a longer axle to axle, that might make a really nice crossover bow for me. Meaning that I could take it whitetail hunting, mule deer, whatever in the fall, and I can take that to shoot target in the winter, shoot 3D or field style archery during the summertime. Being that I'm a shorter individual, I don't necessarily need a longer bow to gain that stability. Not that a longer bow couldn't gain me more stability than 33 inches, but for me, being that I hunt mostly in trees, maybe spot and stock, having a shorter bow, a bit more advantageous for a guy like me. Something else, if you're a DIY guy like me, like myself, that new deadlock cam system on the Bowtech is really nice. So basically that means you can shift the cam left and right on both the top and the bottom cam, all with an Allen key, so no bolt press needed. And technology like that, once you do your research, you should also be thinking about. If you're a guy who likes to tinker with their gear like I do, having those features set into a bow platform is really nice. That way you don't have to go out and buy a bow press to paper tune or broadhead tune your bow. But if you're just kind of a take it to the bow shop guy, let them kind of deal with it, most bows you shouldn't really have that big of an issue with. Now let's take you into consideration. You might be a little bit of a different individual than I am. And if you were, let's say, are hunting in an environment that is more open, you're not hunting in an elevated position, you're spotting and stalking, you're calling in elk, you're stalking in mule deer. Potentially you might have a longer shot opportunity, let's say in that 40 to 60, even longer distance range. Typically speaking, having a bow with a longer axle to axle gives you a more stable shooting platform. And to coin Aaron Snyder, or to quote him, you shouldn't be going into the archery shop asking what's your fastest bow, but what's your most accurate bow. And that really plays a key part when we're talking about hunting in a Western theater when your shot opportunities could be longer distance. So when we're talking about shooting 40 to 60 yards at a game animal, potentially a jumpy one, having a little bit of a faster bow, okay, and having a little bit of a longer axle to axle bow would probably be a good pick for you to kind of narrow in on. So let's say like a Bowtech Revolt X, let's say a Hoyt RX4 or Axios Alpha, or excuse me, an RX4 Ultra. There we go. So how Hoyt kind of does their thing, they have multiple different bows on the same platform. They might have a longer riser length, that could be the Ultra, so you can get that longer axle to axle length, maybe a bit more precision out to longer distance. But if you're looking more for like a speed bow, let's say you're an individual like I am, short draw length, but let's say you have a lot of upper body strength, it's very easy for you to pull back a bowstring. Maybe going with one of Hoyt's turbo models might be a bit better for you. So instead of getting in that 340 range, you're getting into that 350 range. So you're compensating a little bit for your short stature, and maybe you're not gaining as much feet per second as with someone with a longer draw length. So you're gaining it that way. Or what you could do is go into a heavier poundage category. Okay, so some manufacturers will make bows that come in that 75 to 80 pound range. So that's another option if you're looking to gain in a little bit more speed. So with all of that being said, personal preference really comes down to it. And I would encourage you not to kind of stick to what you've always done. Let's say you've been a Hoyt guy forever. It would be a good idea to go out and just test out other bows to see what's new out there. And you might be surprised on how technology has changed over the years, how dead in the hand the bows are, how quiet they are. And maybe if you've been a Bowtech guy, trapped in Matthews, trapped in Hoyt, then an Obsession, a PSE, whatever. Really give those bows a look, do your research on the internet, ask around. And if you, like I said, take into your own personal considerations. Don't go by what your dad likes, what your friend likes, what your mentor likes. You really have to figure out your own system. Your dad might have a really bad shoulder injury, so he's going to stay away from those bows with an aggressive draw cycle. Or let's say your friend only hunts whitetail deer and despises longer axle to axle lengths. So there again, try to keep your philosophy of use in mind. How am I built? Where am I hunting? And that's really going to play a key part in narrowing it down to 2 or 3 bows to test out. Alright everyone, so we've come to the end of the video. Have you tried out any of the new bows for the year? Leave a comment below which one's your favorite. Are you a Matthews guy or are you a Bowtech guy? What do you think about the technology that's coming out? Is buying a new bow worth the hype or not? If you enjoy watching this video, give me a thumbs up and be sure to hit that subscribe button because this is only part 1 of a multi-part series on how to buy a bow. And be sure to hit that bell notification and hit all so you know when I upload a video. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care. Alright, first fish of the night. Laura! It's a bear! Low ceiling, blurry camera. It could be Bigfoot for all you know.
Good shot, Jack.
Oh, that's a nice one.